Okay. I want to get started right away. Prayer requests, of course, continue to remember the ones that we've been mentioning. Richard's whole family, pretty much. His brother, his daughter, and him. He don't talk about himself much, but he's also having some issues. So remember them in prayer. How's Gabe doing, Cindy? It's good to see him this morning. Yeah. And Wanda's husband, Wanda Mal's husband, I don't know, I'm not sure what her name is now. Anybody know? Cornball? Oh, I know she's Wanda Mal, but what's her name now? Anyway, the guy that she's married to now fell this morning. And I talked to Wanda, and she was just relaxing at home. He's over in the hospital in Johnson City. She said he's been falling a lot lately, so just pray for him. I haven't had a chance to get to know him. But Wanda didn't seem real concerned. I tell you, that Wanda, she's a trooper, that girl is. I told her how much we appreciate her here at this church. I don't think people realize all the years she's put in, what a great job she's done with the nursery. Very few people want to take that responsibility on. And she's done a great job through the years. Anyway, any other prayer needs we need to get? Brian, how's Brian doing? He's in rehab, okay. Wow. Man, it piled up on him, didn't it? We've always got special prayer needs. I was going to do something tonight, but since we had a business meeting, I'll postpone it. That book I've got on prayer, I was going to share another one of the prayers out of it tonight. It's not a real long one, but it's like Dr. Purdue told me years ago. To learn to pray properly and what to pray for, it's good to read prayers that other people have prayed. And I've got a couple of books, one that I got when I was taking that course. But anyway, the message this morning, how true it is that I guess the most forsaken thing in the church is prayer. It's hard work, as I said this morning. It's really hard work. But we've got some prayer warriors here. Miss Kay, she's always been a prayer warrior. You struggle too, huh? I think we all do. All right, anything else? And we'll get started. We're on the downward slide of Hebrews. I thought about it, and we're going to finish up the book of Hebrews on the Faith Hall of Fame, which is the patriarchs, and how their faith was the most important thing, and how God gave them that faith. Just not everyone had it. But anyway, Pete, would you pray for us tonight, please? Amen. Thank you, Pete. Turn to chapter 11 of the book of Hebrews, if you will. Like I say, we're on the downward slide. I'm going to end this teaching in Hebrews with this Hall of Fame of faith with the patriarchs. One place that Scofield really blew it in his Scofield Study Bible was when he stated that salvation was different. It was through works in the Old Testament and through grace in the New Testament. Well, the Bible doesn't teach that. It teaches it's by God giving faith through his grace from Genesis to Revelation. Now, what the writer of Hebrews is doing here, he's breaking down examples of faith. You know, it's always good to read about people who's done great things for the Lord, biographies and things of that nature, and read about how God has blessed them through their faith and through their praying and through those things. Well, let me I'm going to read quite a bit of this chapter tonight in the New Living Translation. It says, faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. Through their faith, the people in days of old earned good reputation. By faith, we understand that the entire universe was formed at God's command, and that what we now see did not come from anything that can be seen. Now, it was by faith that Abel brought a more acceptable offering to God than Cain. Now, Abel's offering gave evidence that he was a righteous man, and God showed his approval of his gifts. Although Abel is long dead, he still speaks to us by his example of faith. It was by faith that Enoch was taken up to heaven without dying. He disappeared because God took him. For before he was taken up, he was known as a person who pleased God, and it is impossible to please God without faith. Anyone who wants to come to him must believe that God exists and that he rewards those who sincerely seek him. It was by faith that Noah built a large boat to save his family from the flood. He obeyed God, who warned him about things that had never happened before. By his faith, Noah condemned the rest of the world, and he received the righteousness that comes through faith. It was by faith that Abraham obeyed God and called him to leave his home and go to another land that God would give him as his inheritance, and he went without knowing where he was going. And even when he reached the land that God had promised him, he lived there by faith, for he was like a foreigner living in tents. And so did Isaac and Jacob, who inherited the same promise. Abraham was confidently looking forward to a city with an eternal foundations, a city designed and built by God. That's what we're looking for, by the way. We're looking for that eternal city where we'll spend eternity. All right, looks like we're going to get a storm out there, doesn't it? That's okay. We're safe in the arms of the Lord in Springdale Baptist Church, so we'll be all right. Anyway, let's take a look at some of this. Hebrews 11:4. It speaks of Abel. By faith, Abel offered to God a more excellent sacrifice. Now, we have kind of touched upon this, so I'm not going to get in real detail on it. But Abel offered to God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, through which he obtained witness that he was righteous, and God testifying of his gift, and through it, he's being dead, but he still speaks. So his great faith is still speaking to us today. So in Genesis 4:1-8, now Adam knew Eve, and we talked about that. They had relationship, and she gave birth to a son, and she thought this son was the promised one, but it was Cain. He was not the promised one. And then, of course, she bare Abel, we read in that passage, and then Abel was the promised son. Now, one of the things that most commentators tell you is that Satan definitely wanted to get rid of Abel because he was going to be the seed of the Messiah, which was to come. So Cain killed Abel, first murder we see in the Bible or in Genesis, and he killed him because he was angry. He was angry because God accepted Abel's sacrifice but rejected his. There's many people that say this is something that was accepted by God because it was a blood sacrifice. In other words, Abel's sacrifice was blood. But it was because Abel brought God a blood sacrifice to atone, and this is one of the first pictures of atonement that we see in the Old Testament. Cain brought crops from his field. So basically, let me just break that down, and we talked about this before. I don't want to labor on it, but Cain is the first picture of works religion that we see in the Bible. It's called the Way of Cain by Jude when he's speaking against the apostates. Any religion that teaches works over grace is an apostate religion. I'm just going to say that. It's human nature for us to desire to be able to put forth our works in order for God to accept us. If that were the case, we would have never been accepted, because there's really nothing that we could have done or could do that would make us righteous before a holy God. Only the atoning blood of Christ can make us acceptable to God. It's such a simple thing, but yet it's so complicated, especially in the religious world. In the religious world, every cult is based completely and totally on what you do, not on what God did. Now, true religion teaches that it's totally and completely what God has done, nothing that we could do. That just goes against our flesh, doesn't it? When I first started studying these things, it just, that just don't seem fair, does it? Well, if it was fair, then the Mormons got it all over us Baptists, because they work hard. The Mormons are out here 2 by 2. Their young people go out 2 years of missionary work, spreading this cult lie throughout the world. One of the fastest growing religions, and let me say religions, that there is. So these people are serious. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they're serious about the lie that they teach. And it is a lie. It's false. It's false religion. Now, we see that would be in the category of the way of Cain, a bloodless works religion. 1 John 3:10 and 12 says, "In this the children of God and the children of the devil are manifest. Whoever does not practice righteousness is not of God, nor is he who does not love his brother. For this is the message that you heard from the beginning, that we should love one another, not as Cain, who was of the wicked one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his works were evil and his brother's works were righteous." Now, there's a lot of debate on whether the blood sacrifice is the key to all this. I believe that it is. I personally believe that the blood had to be shed for God to accept the sacrifice. Now, Proverbs 15:8 says, "The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but the prayer of the upright is his delight." It really doesn't matter what kind of sacrifice a person brings to God if it's for the wrong reason. And Cain brought a sacrifice through his wickedness. It's a Cain sacrifice, a way of Cain. Abel approached God through faith and through obedience to what he had prescribed, whereas Cain came on his own terms, and Abel came before God, and he felt that he knew that God would accept his sacrifice because it was a sacrifice of the heart. Now, Jude 1:11 says, "Woe to them," and this is speaking of apostates, "for they have gone in the way of Cain and have run greedily in the error of Balaam for profit." Remember old Balaam, he was getting paid to curse the children of Israel. And that's another Old Testament example of these health and wealth preachers, by the way. They've been around for centuries. They just get richer now than they did back then. But Balaam, for profit, was willing to curse his own people. Reminds me of some of these Jews today that hate Israel. They're willing to hate their own people for their own gain. And then it mentions those that perished in the rebellion of Korah. There again was someone that was interested in a false religion. But the way of Cain is the way of self-styled, do-it-yourself religion. Some people call it smorgasbord religion. How many of you have been near a smorgasbord lately? I know all of you know what it is. You're Baptists. How many of you are familiar with smorgasbords? Well, it's got all this food on it, and you twirl that baby around and get what you want. And that's a lot of religion today. A lot of it's false, but you got access to every false religion that's out there and every apostate religion. But it's a self-styled religion, the way of Cain. It's opposed to God, and it's not as Abel, who gave his sacrifice through faith. But Cain, he was all about himself. Now, God has prescribed that there is only one way to approach him. And how people miss this in the Bible is beyond me. There's only one way to approach God, and that's through his Son, Jesus Christ. All other ways are worthless and unacceptable, no matter how sincere the person might be. If you don't come by the way of the cross, you will not have eternal life. You know, Mom and I used to discuss some of these cults and what good people many of them seem to be because of their works. But yet they deny primarily the most important thing that you can't deny in the Word of God, and that is the deity of Christ, that Christ truly is God, that he's not a created being, as the Mormons teach. He's not the brother of Lucifer. He's not the good brother, and Lucifer's the bad brother. He is God, period. And if we miss that, we're a false religion. And most all religions, cult religions, miss the fact that Christ is truly God. All other ways are worthless and unacceptable. If you don't come by the way of the cross, it's unacceptable, no matter how sincere a person is. And that's what Mom used to say. She'd say, you know, they really are sincere. Well, you can be sincere, but be sincerely wrong. And I know all of us have questioned that sometimes. How can these people who are much more involved in their religion than most Baptists are, how is it that they're going to an eternal hell? Well, they work a lot harder than you, Steve, and me. You don't see them out there with tables set up at the lake passing out watchtower tracts, do you? See, we could be out there passing out tracts every Saturday. And you know, in the human mind, you think in the human mind, well, man, surely God appreciates their sincerity. No, he doesn't. There's only one way, and that's through the cross of Jesus Christ. It's the only way to approach the true and living God. In that regard, these two, Cain and Abel, become the fountainhead of religion in the world. There's only two types of religions: the Cain religion or the Abel religion. The Cain religion is based upon works, human effort, and the Abel religion is based upon the blood of Christ. That's the only two religions that exist. There's really only two religions in the world: the religion of human achievement and the religion of divine accomplishment. Now, by divine accomplishment, I mean God doing it all. He brings everything to the table. And, when I first started preaching, you'd listen to these evangelists and stuff, and you didn't realize how off base they were with some of the things they'd say. For instance, you take one step and he'll take 10. He takes all the steps from the foundation of the world. You don't have a step. And then, of course, another thing they love to say is, well, God voted for you, and the devil voted against you, and you cast the deciding vote. Let me tell you something. You don't have a vote. And that's how corrupt and how we have. And I believe these men were serious that said things like that, but they're sincerely wrong. But we don't have a vote in the matter. Neither does the devil. God takes all the steps. God voted for you before the foundation of the world, and at the appointed time, God will quicken you, make you alive, and you'll be his for eternity. Not because of anything you did, because of all that he did. But every religion and religious system in the world, apart from Christianity, fails under the category of grace, but lines up between the doctrine of human achievement. That's what you do. And I've mentioned this before. You just can't believe how crazy some people are. That worship false gods, false religion, false teachings. But let me tell you, what you drive up by their churches tonight, and won't have a place for you to park. Look out here at our parking lot. We got plenty of parking spots. You know why? Because they teach that you're not secure with the Lord, that you have to maintain human achievement and your works in order to keep your salvation. Now that's enough to make you want to stay in church. It reminds me of the old song, God thank the preacher scared the hell out of me. And that's what they do. They scare people with these doctrines of works and all of these things. But every religion and every religious system in the world, apart from Christianity, falls under the category of what man does. Only Christianity, which is not a religion but a relationship, that's the difference. It's a relationship, falls under the category of divine accomplishment, what God has done for us. Religion says do. Every religion says do. Christianity says done. It is finished. Religion comes from man and is an expression of his pride to show he's good enough to work and to earn his place in heaven. Boy, I'm glad he's not counting on me for that. And if you really know yourself, you hope he's not counting on you for that. We're all in his security. We're all secured by him. Not things that we do. But man's religion is always centered around works and works-oriented things. Now, Christianity comes from God in Christ, centered and grace-oriented. Salvation isn't something that we earn. It's something that is a gift to us by God. Why is it so hard for us to believe that it's a gift? And it's a gift that God won't take away. Isn't that wonderful? So we're secure in our salvation if we're truly saved. I know my buddy and me growing up, we used to not steal, but we used to trade things. And then later down the road, we'd think, well, I made a mistake. I want that back. And I'd say, Eddie, I want my marble back. I forget what we called them, the one you shot with. Tall? I want my towel back. He said, it's mine now, you engine giver. Now, let me tell you something. God is not an engine giver. Biblical faith, first and foremost, believes that God has said and comes to him the way he has prescribed in the Word of God. Those who try to come to God through any other method is practicing the religion of Cain. They're practicing Cain religion. They always hate the truth because they think that, it's like I mentioned Scientology this morning. What a crazy bunch of fools they are. The people that believe in that cult. Are any of you at all familiar with what Tom Cruise and John Travolta and all those Hollywood stars that one of them said he knew that was the religion he wanted because he was driving by there and the parking lot was full of Mercedes-Benz and Rolls-Royces. That ought to tell you something right there. Tom Cruise gave a testimony about it. He said, everything I am is because of Scientology. Oh, he's well loved by that bunch because he probably gives them millions. And it's all about money. Now, they say that on a faraway planet that L. Ron Hubbard made up in one of his fictional writings, on a faraway planet, there was a battle or a war or something, and these, whatever they were cast out and came to Earth, and they possessed cavemen. And these people believe this stuff. I don't know the whole story on it. It just bored me so much. I'm thinking, how can anybody believe this stuff? But people believe a lot of things that they shouldn't. And one of the things that they believe is these cultic teachings such as Scientology. Matthew 23, 34, 35 says, "Therefore, indeed, I send you prophets, wise men, and scribes. Some of them you will kill and crucify, and some of them you will scourge in your synagogue and persecute from city to city, that on you may come all the righteous blood shed on the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar." Hebrews 11:4 says, "By faith Abel offered to God a more excellent sacrifice." Now, then we move on to, I won't labor any more with Abel. We've discussed him pretty much in depth in the sacrifice. But we'll move to Enoch. Enoch, Hebrews 11:5, "By faith Enoch was taken away so that he did not see death." The first rapture, I guess. The first rapture, he did not see death, and was not found because God had taken him. For before he was taken, he had this testimony that he pleased God. He pleased God through faith, not works. Here again, it's through faith. These are the Hall of Fame of faith, men that God gave great faith to. Genesis 5, 21, 24. Enoch lived 65 years, really a short lifespan then. Lived 65 years, and he begot who? Methuselah. My grandmother used to say, he's as old as Methuselah. How many of you have heard that saying in your life? Man, he's as old as Methuselah. People can say that about me now. I'm as old as Methuselah. But anyway, he lived 65 years, and he didn't die, by the way. But he begot Methuselah. And he begot Methuselah, and Enoch walked with God 300 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years. I'm sorry, how did I come up with 65 years? Anyway. And Enoch, before he was taken, I guess, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Now, Enoch was the father of Methuselah, and the great-great-grandfather of who? Noah. He was the great-great-grandfather of Noah, just like I'm the great-great-grandfather of Abby. But I ain't going to live as long as Methuselah, I guarantee you that. It seemed that then Methuselah was born, and his father turned to the Lord, and began to walk with God. In other words, Enoch turned to God. What caused Enoch to get his life right with God? What do you think? Why do you think, how do you think God gave him faith? We don't know for sure, but since he is included by the author in Hebrews 11 as an example of faith, I believe that this transformation in Enoch's life came in response to a revelation that God had given him. God gave him a revelation that Enoch believed. And he believed it so strongly that it brought him to faith, and it caused him to live a life of faith and lasted until the Lord took him. And I personally believe that this revelation had to do with the coming judgment. Why? I'll explain as I move on here. In other words, God revealed to Enoch that he was going to destroy mankind because of his wickedness, a judgment that we know took place during the flood. And he revealed that to Enoch. You say, well, why do you believe that? Well, I believe it because Enoch names his son Methuselah, which means when he dies, it shall come. The very year Methuselah died was the year the flood came and destroyed the earth. So he named his son in view of the prophecy that he understood. So obviously Enoch believed a prophecy that God gave him and named his son by faith. I've seen many people through the years get scared and come to the Lord because of the fear of prophecy and the judgment to come, which is coming, by the way. Isn't it amazing how sometimes people will hear about the coming of the Lord and believe upon it and then eventually become saved? But, well, let me tell you something, though. You eventually move on from there. Some people, all they want is prophecy, 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 prophecy. Hey, what about today? We got to occupy till he comes. What about today? What about all the lost souls in this world? What about evangelism today? Well, hey, I believe in prophecy, and you know I do. You've been here long enough. But anyway, that's not the only thing in the Bible. But some people, it's so irritating when people... You do a special teaching session on prophecy, and you'll have a full house, but you teach on the 7 sayings at the cross, and nobody comes. Prophecy is fascinating because human beings are concerned and interested in the future. What's going to happen in the future, Kay? But I believe it wholeheartedly that Christ is coming soon, and I believe the prophecies of the Bible. But that's not the only thing in the Bible. But Enoch believed a prophecy that God had given him, and he named his son accordingly. There is going to be a coming judgment. Is it enough for people to fear that and get saved through that? Well, that's totally up to God. I know of one example. We had a young man came here many years ago at the old church over there, and he was laying in bed one night and heard thunder off in the distance, and he thought for sure the Lord was a-coming. So he came and he re-upped, and man, he got involved, and he could sing. Had a lot of gifts that God had given him. Last I heard, he was selling meth here in Kingsport. I heard one of his sons died from a meth overdose. Same guy. He lasted maybe 2-3 months. But it's not enough just to get scared. We've got to have Christ in our hearts. But Enoch believed this prophecy that there was going to come destruction. There's never been another generation in the history of the world that has been closer to the coming of Christ than this generation now. Do y'all believe that? When you look at what's going on? And I've said this often, we shouldn't be afraid. We should be excited that we're going to see the coming of the Lord soon. And if we don't, we're still going to go see him if we die before he comes. So we've got it good either way. But this is a very fruitful time for evangelism, by the way, for all of us, because so many people, lost people, are fearful of what's going on in the world. Many people don't want to touch it, evangelism. They're afraid to tell people about Christ, but we shouldn't be. Now, how did this information cause Enoch to live his life? First, it caused him to live a life of holiness. If we believe what we teach, that Christ is coming soon, we should strive for righteousness in our life. And he walked with God at a time when the world had become so evil and so immoral and so corrupt that God had purposed to destroy it because of the wickedness. It's almost like now, isn't it? When we look at the evil that exists now in America, 50% of our people are under demonic oppression, I believe. I believe it's more supernatural now than it's ever been. We've always had problems. We've always had issues in America. But today it's almost a dark, demonic cloud that has come across much of our nation. Mainly because of some of the demonic activity that they want to practice. Mutilation. I'm not going to go there. But anyway, mutilation. How can anybody think it's all right to mutilate a child? Did y'all hear this week that they're going to build a detransition hospital in Texas for these poor people that their parents put them through sex change, and now they're regretting it? How about that? Anybody could see that coming. Genesis 6:5 says, "Then the Lord saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." And I believe there's a lot of people in America whose thoughts are evil continually. All they do is sit around and try to perpetuate evil upon others. Man, that's what I'm saying. It's different now. Back in my generation, the hippies were crazy, but they were just crazy. Now the old hippies are demon-possessed and running the Northwest, Oregon, Washington, California. You've got these old hippies that are still crazy as loons that are in government now out there. How do you explain that? Well, maybe they've been demon-possessed for a long time. Genesis 6:11, "The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. But Enoch walked with God." I'm going to stop there tonight because of the business meeting, but we'll pick it up there on Wednesday evening, and we'll finish up with Enoch and move on to the next patriarch from there. Anyway, I need to call to order our meeting